Hey, we're live.
Hello.
There's quite a delay between when it goes out to YouTube and what we're seeing. So there's like a 30-second to like at least 30-second delay, which is
That's why I use a countdown timer before I go on, so I can check everything. It gives me
so
a minute or so to check everything. Because otherwise you're standing, you come on live, and you're kind of looking around and kind of looks silly for a minute.
Yeah, I want to address what Lucifer Almighty said here about Eric being the bottom of the barrel. The interesting thing about Eric Hernandez, and I think it's why I named this part one. We're just going to briefly do a few things today. Yeah, DebateCon's going on now, Jefferson. But Eric Hernandez may be at the bottom of the barrel as far as philosophers of the mind go, but the other ones obscure what they're saying in so much jargon and so much, intellectual haughtiness. But they're saying the same thing as Eric Hernandez. It's just that with Eric Hernandez, we get it in the simple childlike form that we need, to get started. So I think it's really, he does a great service to physicalists because he puts it out there as simple as it actually is. Yeah, you follow that, you guys?
I mean, no, I follow it, and thank you, by the way, Pragmatic Crystal.
Oh, where's the? Oh, are you pairing?
I am not.
Oh, okay. So that's one of your videos that he put up. Is it? Or what is that? Why are you thinking Pragmatic Crystal?
Because they posted a link to my page.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Should post a picture. We should post a link to. Oh, Dave, you're simulcasting, right? So I got paired. Okay, good. Anyway, so the debate. I thought Leo was so chill and such a gentleman and so fucking well. I mean, he wasn't confrontational, and he just, dug in with the right questions at the right time. I just thought he did the most amazing job that I've seen in a long time on Modern Day Debate. What do you guys think? I mean, it was like I thought he really knocked it out of the park.
I thought so too. Now his opponent was trying a lot of very unfair things, which of course he kind of has to because he's on the unfair side of it.
Right.
So, but sometimes I was confused. I'm like, what the hell does that thing mean? He just said, why is he saying it now? And it seemed like out of context a lot of times, the things that he said. It was just like randomly throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. And it seemed like he was trying to throw Leo off balance.
Yeah.
And, it interrupted the whole flow. It made the whole thing unstructured, and it interrupted the flow. And Leo did keep up with it well. Better than I could have, for dang sure.
And Leo was like stone cold calm. I mean, he didn't yell at him or anything. It was just awesome.
That's what Icarus is asking. Leo didn't scream at the other guy. No, Leo was very calm and professional, even though he said he felt a little jacked up having too many coffees.
Both debates, he was just absolutely perfect. I mean, goddamn, he did a good job.
And he was a gentleman, too.
Oh yeah, Christ, he was very nice to his opponents in spite of all the shit that they sling. So I was just absolutely. I think if Leo had sold Leo dolls out in the hallway, he would have made a fortune. People would have bought huggy Leo dolls because he just came off as a really nice guy.
The Hernandez one is worth watching, Icarus. The first one, the guy wasn't.
Yeah, the guy was a box of rocks.
It was a bunch of straw man about atheist, and Leo said, no, atheist is just, you don't believe in God.
And that's a great idea for the merch. You could have sold half of them as Tickle Me Leo dolls,
Tickle me, Leo. Yeah.
And the other half, he could have sold to his enemies as voodoo dolls, and everybody would have been buying them.
We got to start a merch store
We
and
should.
get some suppliers because we got a lot of stuff that we need to put on T-shirts and put on coffee mugs, and we need to make Tickle Me Leo dolls because that would be. I don't know if Leo would sue us or not if we call them Tickle Me Leophilius dolls. I don't know. We'd probably have to cut them in. I don't know. So this debate has a whole lot of subjects, and the one subject that I'm interested in talking about tonight, because we're probably not going to be here all that long, is personhood and this idea, some of the ideas that Hernandez came up with. But at the end, I guess there's a question that Dave just found for me from a guy about personhood, and what is the person? So we could listen to it. What do you think? Oh, Leo Strawman doll. We could make Eric Hernandez Strawman dolls.
Yeah.
Leo Strawman dolls comes with pins.
You can make a little money doing silly-looking dolls for Kent Hovind and Ham and all. We ought to do that. I don't think there's no way they could sue us for using something that looked kind of like them. I mean, the doll obviously isn't them because the doll doesn't have a soul, right?
Run it through AI and they're crap out of it. Yeah.
Good day. Literally.
Speaking of James, where's your AI pick? You went back to your other pick.
Oh my God! The universe decided. Sydney Raptor, basically.
Didn't you say Melody Joy did that one for you, James?
Oh yeah, let me try to find that one. Hold on a second.
That's a good job on James's AI.
I gotta go fire up your chat because I want to capture chat on both channels. Where are you? There you are.
I'm up.
Okay. Let's see. Oh my God, I missed some of the chat. So you got Pragmatic Crystal, you got Logan, and you got Sydney Raptor, I think, over there.
Yep. Sydney just had it on. Hello, Sydney.
I have Baron Samadhi, Icarus, Nerdy Rodent, and Sydney Raptor's over. No, okay, he's paired. Okay. Anyway, let's play the question and kind of get into this a little bit, and so we have something to talk about. There's a lot of things to talk about. Personhood is a very interesting and very large topic. Who are we really? And
are you making fat jokes? I resemble that remark.
Oh my God, no, I am not.
There's the AI. Yeah, that's really good. That's a good picture.
Where's that? Oh,
is that his avatar?
Yeah.
Oh, that's AI?
Yeah, Melody Joy made that for me with one of my pictures by request. Yeah.
Wow, cool. I got to get that image thing going. Anyway, okay, let's listen to this. See if you guys can hear it. Okay.
Is that an atheist Jesus fish?
No. Anarchist.
Oh.
Godarchy.
Nice.
Evening, by the way. So I'm going to ask a question, and I'm going to follow up with the context behind the question. As far as what is consciousness and what can have consciousness, one of the other gentlemen brought up networking as far as the transfer of information and everything. And I think a really relevant subject to this is AI. There's this YouTube channel called Dust, and they have these short and they have these short sci-fi movies that are 15 minutes long. And in one of these sci-fi flicks, it has, and it's very relevant to today and increasingly becoming relevant. They're on this ship, and there's this scientist, and he's got this patient, and he's all right, we're going to end your life as it is now, but you're going to live forever. We're going to download your consciousness into the computer. So we're going to take every single experience that you've had throughout your life. So in addition to the first questions, if you can download someone's entire consciousness, entire experiences, are they that same person? And if not, what is a consciousness as opposed to having a soul or not having a soul? Can AI have a consciousness? And then what's the difference between human consciousness and artificial intelligence consciousness?
Yeah, a good question. Another shameless plug. I was on Capturing Christianity, and I have the video on my channel as well. I think I talked for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours on AI and consciousness. So in other words, I can't fit it all
think
within
I
a few
might
minutes.
caught that.
But yeah, you're welcome to go there. But I'll say a few things. I don't think you could ever download someone's consciousness. I go back to the CD illustration. I could take a brain and put similar grooves on there, but I wouldn't call that downloading the consciousness. On top of that, I don't think AI could ever be conscious. An interesting argument against functionalism was actually presented by an atheist philosopher, John Starrell, and he gives what's called the Chinese room argument. Fascinating argument. And essentially, in a nutshell, he says, suppose you're put in this box, and there are two holes, and you can't get out of the box, and beside you there's this book, and it says that whenever a piece of paper with a squiggly line comes in this side, then find the paper that has a squiggly line and pass it through the other side. Now, let's suppose you get so good at this, you look at the rule book, and you get so good at, taking in and passing out pieces of paper, you get so good at it that, it's just like, really quickly happening. Now,
this is John Searle's Chinese room argument. Did he mention Cyril, or I didn't quite get the philosopher he mentioned? Must have been Cyril.
I'm not sure if he said his name or not. He did say there was a philosopher.
Yeah, it's John Searle, Searle.
Now, suppose that unbeknownst to you, what's actually happening is that people are sending in questions in Chinese, and you're responding with answers in Chinese. And suppose you got so good at this that to the outside observer, it looks like this box understands Chinese, when in reality, you don't understand a lick of Chinese. And his essential argument is that imitating conscious behavior does not entail consciousness itself. So while I think AI could get really darn close to imitating consciousness, that wouldn't prove that it is consciousness any more that the person inside this Chinese room imitating Chinese language shows that he understands Chinese.
Is that it?
Now, Leo's going to disagree.
Oh, okay.
I specifically, I'm not sure, but being a process functionalist, I would say that if every neuron I have was replaced progressively with a silicon chip that could do exactly the same thing, I would remain a conscious agent. So I think that if the proper processes and functions are in place, you can get consciousness. There's something else about what you asked that I wanted to respond to, and I don't remember what it was because my ADHD brain is terrible at keeping things.
Me too.
Yeah.
You talk about downloading consciousness and
yeah, downloading consciousness. Would you have different experiences? I would say yes, because you would be experiencing the world from being downloaded in a computer. Just like I think if I perfectly cloned myself, that clone would go off to have its own experiences and would eventually develop into its own person, who may end up disagreeing with me on things because it goes out and has its own experiences and builds its own beliefs and stances on things based on what it goes through, even though it was initially an identical clone of who I was. So I think that...
Yeah, for one thing, the Leo clone would go off and start agreeing with me on scientism, and the other Leo wouldn't agree with me. So anyway,
that's a good point, though. Like, he laid it right out there. He could go out and come back and disagree with me, even though it's identical. Because they were talking earlier in the how it came up as a question, I think, talking about being identical. If things are identical.
Oh, Peter
and that's the point there, that if it's identical, Leo said, yeah, but being identical doesn't mean it can't evolve from that. Like, people change and everything. So then your personhood, or however you want to describe it, would change.
Yeah. Go ahead, James.
I was going to say that this speaks to the randomness of the theological narrative is put forth by fundamentalists, especially Christians. Because if I end up with a particular set of perceptions about their religion, it's because of the life experiences that I've had. Combination of factors. If you reset the clock and I have me subject to completely different life experiences again and again, I'm eventually going to become somebody who can resonate with some version of Christianity, right? It's all random. So their entire belief structure boils down to a fate lottery, where what your conclusions are called moral choices, but they're really just the result of perceptions based on individual life experience that you could not have predicted would shape your psychology in the way that it did.
Yeah. The okay, but it's a little deeper, and maybe we should listen to some of the earlier clips where they're talking about
But
personhood.
you could use twins too. If you want to say they were designed basically exactly the same from birth, yet they could
Yeah.
be completely different and completely the same at the same time.
You just went dim at the end. Say something again, Dave.
I drop off.
Oh no, your mic just did something really strange.
Oh, it's the demons
Yeah, the demons are
climbing around in my microphone now. I don't know. I get some spray.
Yeah.
Some demon be gone spray.
No, I was saying though, you could, if with the idea of twins from birth, with identical, using the identity argument, they would be identical, even down to a cellular DNA level. They're almost the same, but yet they could be completely different persons while being identically the same person. So you end up with a what is it? Is it a paradox or a conundrum? Or
I have twins, and it really is sometimes real scary how much they share and then how much they don't.
Yeah, I have twins as well.
At the same time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and sometimes one of them will refer to the other one, like Dylan will refer to Dustin as Dylan. Like they even confuse themselves. It's pretty amazing, and they're pretty high on the identical scale, which means I think the eggs separated early or something, or is it late? Late, I think, yeah, and they end up with a high identical whatever. But yeah, it really is strange to watch their personhood develop, that sort of thing. But anyway, yeah, let's listen to a few clips, and I have some comments about that downloading consciousness, and I disagree. I think it would be more like Chinese room if the chatbot we have now, not conscious, and there's some very good reasons why it's not. ChatGPT, even though it's smarter than shit. But there are a few things it's missing that we would have to provide in silicon in order to end up with a conscious entity, and we're very close to it. I think we're within 10 to 50 years.
That's why I think Leo was talking down to, replacing every neuron, every molecule or whatever with something that's electronic.
Yeah, if you did it one at a time, you wouldn't notice at all. You'd be the same person. You'd end up in silicon.
And it was a way, and they were talking about also in the debate how you change the cells in your body, and are you the same person because you made new cells in most of your body, but not in the brain or in the nervous system. So then you've got a problem there too, because a lot of your body's changing, but some things aren't.
Yep.
But it's both ways again, and that's why I'm confused about how he's picking away a side. Hernandez is picking a side because he seems to be going both ways.
Quite a few twin studies. The biggest one was done in Minnesota at the University of Minnesota, and my kids were subjects of that twin study, which we got them in early.
Just thinking the same thing. There's been a lot of twins are a fascinating study.
Yeah.
Got the Ouija board handy there, Sydney. Don't worry.
It was wonderful. The University of Minnesota, we'd go in there and we'd all be tested. They tested us until the kids were 18. And we'd go in there and they had Minnesota family twin study, and they misspelled family on the placard on the wall at the University of Minnesota.
Oops.
Way to go. It didn't inspire confidence. And they hooked us up to, they'd paste electrodes on our heads, and it was just amazing some of the shit they put everybody through. But it was pretty cool. And they're going to be following them until they die.
I don't do grammar police, but when somebody's trying to insult me or misspell something, then I'm on it. It's
Well,
like,
you know, when you
come
go
on.
out and get a placard printed up, you know, like a fucking $500 placard for a building,
Yeah.
you wanna get a spell checker just to be
Well,
sure
wasn't it?
before you go for it.
But wasn't that in the news? Wasn't it one of the statues they did in D.C. or something? They had to redo because they had a spelling error on the dang statue, on the
Yep,
placard.
like somebody got fired.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's serious boo boo.
Yep. So here they are starting to talk about, or well, they started earlier, but this is about personhood. I
Well,
think
but this is the thing. Who out there does know how the soul does this? Because there are people who know how cars work. There are people who know how phones work. There are people who can answer those questions. Who can answer them for the soul then?
So the answer is yes. That is what you're arguing, right?
Can you repeat it?
It sounds like you're arguing if we don't know how something works, then we shouldn't believe it. Is that what you're arguing?
No.
That's
I
a
don't think
little
that
early.
because some individual does not understand how something works that they shouldn't believe it. But if nobody can even remotely figure out or have a starting point for how something works, I think that's cause for question.
I've
That
given you
raises
3 or
an
4
eyebrow.
starting points that have been proposed for the interaction. And I've also,
Okay, here's where he starts talking about personhood, I think.
Of the soul,
and to reiterate, this is an epistemic question, not an ontological question.
I still don't think
So-
that makes.
Okay, every time Leo asks him a question about how the soul works, you know, tell me how this stuff works. He says, "Oh, it's not an ontological question; it's an epistemic question." Yet he keeps asking Leo how the brain produces consciousness, which is also an epistemic question, right? So I mean, like, what the fuck? You know, what's good for the goose is good for
The gander.
Leo. I don't know. I don't want to call Leo a gander. Anyway, I avoided that. Anyway, okay, here we
It's
go.
unimportant
So
to
I
the discussion.
still haven't heard an argument. I've heard more questions, but I would like to focus on some things I've argued. So one of the things I argued was identity through change,
Mhm.
right? Do you think that people remain the same throughout part replacement and change?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't think I'm the same person I was when I was 4, but I think I'm the same person in some probably like maybe a legal sense or something like that.
Okay,
Like
so-
I'm still Leophilius. I was Leophilius when I was 4. I'm Leophilius now, but different beliefs, different desires, different aims, different stances. You know, people talk about this all the time. They're a changed person. I think that can happen. I think people can change, and I
So-
think they can become different.
So they're talking
persons.
about in the loose popular sense.
So the thing about being the same person, like we all understand what organisms are and how they get hatched from an egg, and they grow up and then they die. And we know that an oak tree is the same oak tree from, you know, the time it's a seedling until it's a towering monster, and then it falls over in the forest, right? Same oak tree. So this isn't really a complicated problem. I mean, we know that I'm the same organism that was born in 1951, you know, to Pearl Brusnak. And who's that other guy? Oh, that guy, Charlie. Yeah, my dad. Anyway, we know that, right? And I mean, this isn't a complicated thing, but are we the same person? And it's like, I don't know.
Of
And
identity.
I would
Unless, like-
I would ask back, is he arguing for you either have a good soul or a bad soul and your soul can't change? I was waiting for him to ask, you know, can the soul change? Like you can change. I think he was agreeing that a person can change, but can your soul change?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see where he,
Because he keeps them separate.
if he tries to explain himself. Yeah.
You're meaning, sorry to interrupt, something more like concrete, then I would say,
Yes.
yes, I'm the same person.
Okay, so you do believe people retain identity through change in a
Yes.
concrete, absolute
Yeah,
sense, right?
yeah.
Because it's a debate on philosophy of mind, so
That
that's
was the word I was originally looking for, was,
Okay.
was concrete.
right on. Okay, so how is that possible in your view?
How is it possible that people remain the same? I don't see any immediate contradiction, and if there's no immediate contradiction, then I can grant that it's possible.
Okay, so if there is no soul and we are, how would you define the I guess? When you refer to the I, what are you referring to?
Some amalgam of experiences and probably some like intrinsic genetic biological factors that are developed over time through a person's experiences of the world
So-
builds this notion of the self, of the I.
So if those things change, you wouldn't be the same person.
Not in the concrete sense, no.
So then you don't think persons retain identity through change and part replacement.
In the concrete sense, yes.
Yes, you don't think, or yes, they do?
Well, in this more concrete sense, we are.
So Hernandez is conflating a whole bunch of things, right? So there's that first thing that I mentioned, the biological reality and the truth of the matter that we are one organism, and we get born, we go through life, and we die, right? As one organism. But of course, we're not the same molecules. But then when a tornado starts in ripping across Kansas from one end of the state to the other, by the time it gets to the other end of the state, I don't think there are any of the molecules in that tornado that are the same. But we don't say that there are thousands of tornadoes, right? As the molecules get replaced, it's the same goddamn tornado. So it's an interesting way that we think, that we will call something the same when its form remains the same. And Leo is saying that the form of the person would kind of consist of our epistemic memories, what we remember about who we are and our past and all that. And I don't know. And of course, Hernandez is going to claim that the soul is the same soul, and the soul can be separated from the body on death and go up to heaven and sit around with Jesus and smoke dope or whatever. Right? I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm confused on, because he seems to be having it both ways. And when Leo answered him, then he seemed to go into this little thing here where I got kind of confused. I think he was doing it on purpose.
And then conversationally, people can be having a conversation, and they can say, "Oh, I'm not the same person I was when I was 9 years old," and I can say I'm not the same person as I was in 1980 when I was a staunch Reagan supporter, right? Screaming about immigration and listening to Rush Limbaugh. I'm not the same person.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you guys aren't the same person as James. You aren't the same person you were when you were Christian, right? You would say that.
Mm-hmm.
And Hernandez is taking all of these colloquial pronouncements that we make about personhood, and he's trying to, I don't know, he's trying to make a case again.
Because I think if he does say the soul is the same, then he's going to give up the ghost that he's saying that it's all physical. He has to keep putting something there that says, well, no, the soul is still separate, without saying, well, then does the soul change? Or again, I was still confused. Is it your soul is just doomed, or what?
What would have happened if I died at 9 years old? Okay, with those 9-year-old experiences, or if I died when I was a staunch Reagan supporter and Republican, or if I die now. Okay, those three souls would enter heaven. How would they be? Would they be different in heaven, or would they be exactly the same? And if they're exactly the same, then what did I lose by entering heaven, right? Because I obviously lost something.
Yeah, the moment before or the moment after you blew it and committed a crime or something.
Yeah, like if I entered heaven as a staunch Republican with those attitudes, I mean, I would be one kind of person, and today I would be another kind of person. So that would mean that, I mean, if it was exactly the same soul at 9 years old, at 40 years old, and at 70 years old, then what the hell would we have lost when we went to heaven that would have made us distinct people? I would have, if I was 9, obviously I would have lost my Reagan belief and my current very liberal beliefs. Right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so sense. What is your soul when you go to heaven? Are you waving the Reagan flag, or are you burning the Reagan flag?
Right. If we make a list of every single thing that we care about, you make a list, Dave makes a list, I make a list. Every single personality trait, memory, quirk, everything that we're proud of, everything that identifies who we are in the world, as distinct from someone else. The problem is that if we suppose a soul, then none of that applies. It contains none of the things we care about, and whatever it contains, we don't even know. And if we can't give it a trait, if we can't take even one single trait that is me in the world and carry that over and say that the soul contains it, integrally and will bring it into the heaven, then we're not saying anything at all to say that a soul continues and that a soul goes to heaven. It's a blank proposition. It literally doesn't contain any
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, there's just that whole entering heaven thing. Just there's so much wrong with that when you actually start to think about it. It's like, are you gonna feel like, am I gonna feel my one knee that tends to be a little weak when I run? Is that gonna be there? Okay, or my right knee am I gonna lose that? Am I gonna lose my bodily sensation? Am I going to lose my love of peanut butter cups? I don't know, and if I love peanut butter cups, then how did parts of my glucose physiology carry over into my soul? I don't get that.
What if you're remarried?
Yeah, there's the other thing, and
Do you have then two souls, one for each of those lives?
oh God, it would be a real pickle if you were remarried, and
Because it's
all of
one
your-
man and one woman. Surely you can't have two wives in heaven.
Yeah, if all of your spouses died before you and you went up there and you were married to 3 of them, right? And
They've
and they
had
just
how
hap-
long to talk about you?
And not only that, but they all died while you were married to them, right? So if you were widowed 3 times, they would all be married to you when they died. So that's the soul that would go to heaven.
Did your tea taste funny every morning too?
My God. Dark humor.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I can imagine that would be a problem. I don't know. Oh shit.
People are also saying
Okay.
that memories, think about it, our memories are malleable. They fade and they change.
Yeah.
One of the things that scientists have realized over the last 5 to 10 years is that every time we remember something from our past, it changes a little bit, the memory does. So
Yep.
if we're not supposed to have any falsehoods in heaven, there's no lies, there's no delusion, that means that whatever set of memories the soul brings into heaven with it are completely different than the narrative that we've got in our physical mind right now. So they wouldn't even recognize themselves as us, nor vice versa. They'd have a completely different take on everything that they've ever been through.
Yeah, if I were
What state of
like
mind?
on-
Yeah, because when I was a couple of funerals I went to recently, people are just broken up. I mean, you try to talk to them, they just break out crying and they're trembling, and
Yeah.
and they want to be near the casket, and all the serious, but part of our coping mechanism is that doesn't last. Like James is saying, the memory, it's like when they say you forget the pain of childbirth. Women forget the pain because you experience the joy of having your child, but at that moment that hurt. Nobody's going to deny that hurt, but later on the story is, well, yeah, it hurts.
Yeah.
The baby and oh, look at how precious and everything. But at that moment, it's nails are clawing, give me medication,
Right.
So you could definitely, it all depends on what your state of mind is. Again, like you were saying, when do you go? Do you go in that state of mind or just before or after that state of mind? It makes a difference on what your soul is going to be for eternity. Or not. And then if not, then it's separate. And he has a problem with separation. If it's tied to the body, then he has a problem with making it physical.
Baron Samedi makes these kinds of arguments about non-existence nonsense. Why I stick to physical science, biology mainly. This is why I'm a science. Why I prescribe to scientism, because all of these problems go away when you just think about everything as physical, right? You can figure anything out. You can frame all of this nonsense, our memories, our what we are today, what we always have been, why we would be the same person roughly, biologically. We can look at it biologically. Why we're different people. We can look at how much our brain has changed if we want to associate who we are with with our mentality, right? All of that stuff becomes very easy to analyze physically, and you're going to come up with depending on how you hit the idea of personhood, You're gonna end up with different answers physically, but that's okay because it makes fucking sense overall, right? I'm an organism. My brain is gonna change every single moment of my consciousness. There's no problem with that. I'm the same fucking organism. I'm just not gonna be the same person, quote
Did
unquote.
you get the clip when he talks about the split brain person?
Oh no.
Or what is it? I think one half of his brain is an atheist, the other half is a theist or
Oh
something
yeah.
like that, but he's the
Yeah.
same person.
Yeah.
And that I'm pretty sure that Leo mentioned it in this one.
Yeah, there was
That blows everything. That throws a big wrench in the works right there. What do you do with that one?
There was a story about somebody who was dressing and one hand would be buttoning the shirt and the other one would be unbuttoning it, and then another one where somebody was trying to make eggs and had the frying pan in the left hand and the right hand was throwing the eggs on the floor. It was like, what the split brain people, they have like two completely separate personalities going on in their brain. And then there's, the famous one was the atheist and the Christian in the same brain.
And that's also testable.
Yeah.
And again, you can't test the soul unless you define the soul as part of the brain, and then it's back to physical. He loses the argument.
Logan Fisher is
I still don't see where the separation comes in from the soul being not part of physical brain.
Well, if it's not an integral and ever active and relevant part to our physical person, then it's a different person that's just being tugged along everywhere we go, right? They're their own person. There's the physical me. That's the person talking right now. That's the person accumulating these memories and living this life. And then there's the soul me, who has no say in any of it. They're dragged helplessly along, attached to this big old loser, thinking, when am I going to get away from this guy? And if I die and they go up to heaven, they're going to be like, about damn time. I couldn't stand the guy. And it's just like, or maybe they like me, but I don't think they're going to be too happy about being stuck to me, literally pinned to me, where they've got their own ways of thinking, their own take on everything they've ever been through, and they don't get a voice in any of it because the physical me always does. That would be hell.
Well, Logan, are you really 10,800 today? Even? We share the 00? That would be interesting. You'd be like a doppelganger, sort of thing. But it'd be like if I met my 40-year-old Republican self up in heaven right now, we'd be arguing. It'd be kind of like my sons Dylan and Dustin, identical twins arguing with each other.
Or
It'd be
Leo's
like arguing with
clone.
yourself.
Yeah, Leo's clone.
Yeah.
And there again, if you have a clone, are they two separate souls?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Because
Well,
that's
let's see.
that's from you. I mean, that's not that's like cheating biology if you clone, right? So that's kind of in line with what he said with, well, no, that's a computer because we mess with this stuff. Well, then wouldn't a clone be the same thing that we messed around when you can make a clone? So then
Yeah.
he's saying, well, the clone would be conscious, but then it doesn't have a soul because it was made. I had a hard time where he's explaining any of that.
There's a whole lot in this debate that opens up a lot of this philosophy of mind stuff that we'll go over. We're going to deal with personhood tonight, but there's a lot more about this soul shit that just doesn't make no sense.
Right.
No
Now,
sense at
normally
all.
this is my favorite topic of all time. This is the only thing that got me involved in philosophy. It is the most common thing in some way or another that I write about whenever I'm not dogging on fundamentalists. The identity of the I, what it really means, exploring all the different avenues. I would love to write a book on sci-fi where my favorite sci-fi movies and TV series have specifically dealt with this issue. There's been all kinds of different Star Trek series that's dealt with it, and just pretty much any sci-fi series I can think of in some way or another, at least 1 or 2 episodes have covered different ways of identifying the I and created thought experiments where it asks you to think about what really is the I.
Yeah. Yeah, and you realize like if you go through the whole Buddhist process, right, where they strip away all these concepts of what I think I am, you end up thinking God, there is no I. It doesn't matter.
Right. The eye is a
And
story that we tell ourselves, and the story constantly
Yeah.
changes.
Well, the real mind-blowing thing is that if I went to sleep and somebody took and copied me exactly molecule for molecule into another person, and then they killed the person that went to sleep and the other person woke up, I would have no way of knowing that. There actually would be no way of knowing that. And we want to think, oh, I'll notice, but no, you won't, because you're going to be dead, and this other person is going to wake up.
Unless the
So
body
it
was
makes-
there. Unless the body was there.
Yeah, unless the body was there, that would be a little frightening. It's like, holy fuck. It's like, now I gotta fucking cut this thing up and bury it out in the valley. I don't know what the fuck is. I planned
Can
on,
you be charged for killing yourself?
I don't, yeah, for hiding the body if you found your exact one. Anyway, so then you extend it and you start to think, okay, what if we copied every memory except for one, right, to this other person, and then you realize that really wouldn't make any difference, and then you go one at a time, but then you leap way forward and you think, okay, the moment I die and a child is born somewhere, another consciousness pops up. It doesn't make any fucking difference to me. I mean, it's almost as if I have been reincarnated. And that's the deep concept of reincarnation, where you realize that it does not make any difference
Right.
if you die at all.
Yep.
To you. It makes zero
I mean,
difference.
if you get rid of the lie that is the ego, you're everywhere already.
Right. Yeah, you're launched into eternity automatically. And the moment you die, you are hyper launched into eternity, because the moment after you die, or say an hour after you die, is going to be exactly the same moment to you as 300 trillion years from now. So all of that time is you're going to be launched into eternity is one way you could look at it. And I think some of the early religious writers that were trying to put this shit down, I think they were thinking about stuff like this, and they were trying to explain this to us, right?
Yeah.
And then it got all fucked up in the process, and we ended up with Eric Hernandez.
Yes, absolutely. Good example, Sydney, by the way.
What went wrong there?
Where's Sydney? Sydney Raptor Stargate. Fun with the whole, oh yeah,
Right.
I don't
Yeah, they're
remember
all
that
clones.
episode.
And even if you think about the symbiotes versus the host, when they combine, are they the same person? Are they two different people? Is there an overlap where technically there's two people, but then again there's a space where they're the same?
Yeah.
And the same thing happened with like the Trills in the Star Trek, like Deep Space Nine series, for example. And then the episode of Voyager where Tuvok and Neelix had the transporter accident and they became Tuvix. And then at the end, Janeway forces them to separate because she wants both people back. So all these different ways of having thought experiments that challenge our assumptions about identity. And I think that that's the most wonderful thing that sci-fi ever delivers to us.
Oh, a little.
Janeway's a murderer, says YouTube punk. Yeah.
So let's see. We're trying to figure out. So he figured out I was born January 7th, 1951. I always click the add-on day, I think. Like when you go to days between dates calculator to count my days.
It asks you to pick one
That sort of thing.
option. So, yeah.
Mike's in that weird time zone too. So.
I'm in
In
that
an
weird time
Well-
zone.
altered reality.
Well, my
Okay.
ex was a leap year baby, so I always told everybody that I should be in prison right now because I'm dating a girl who's only had 4 birthdays.
Yep. Yep.
Oops.
Oh, yeah. Don't know if you want to say that out loud.
Too late.
But, yep. Anyway,
Talking
okay.
leap years. Talking leap years. It's leap
Talking
years.
leap year.
Pay attention, YouTube. It's leap years.
Yeah, fuck.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, they banned one of my videos because I was talking about, what should we call it? The virus? Can you say virus? I don't know.
Bug.
But anyway, we were talking very positively about how the vaccine was just coming out. We wanted to get the vaccine, right? and somehow YouTube's, I think Raw Matt or Standing for Truth reported it because on that video, it was from 2020, December 2020. Uh, Walking Fish and I exposed Raw Matt's fraud. Like he did this paper fraud thing, and we exposed it very thoroughly. And I think one of them complained, and the YouTube people just fucking canceled my video. I got to figure out how to put it back up. But anyway. Okay, we should listen to some more and see if Eric Hernandez saves himself somehow.
Or is leap years every? I was thinking it's every 10 years, but it's not. Is it every 4? And then she was. 10.
Yeah, it's every 4
then she
years.
had 10
yeah.
birthdays. Okay, I correct myself.
Yeah.
Get,
It's not much better.
Mitigate my
Not
business.
much better. No, in fact, in some ways worse. I don't know. Okay, moving on. So let's see if
We are the same person. We have the same names, the same family members, all that stuff. The various features of our persons can change.
But I'm asking persons in the absolute sense. Persons are concrete. Are you the same?
yeah, what the fuck does he mean by that? Concrete. Persons are concrete. If you were concrete, you're concrete when you die, maybe.
Maybe he means static. I don't know what he means by concrete.
It don't make no sense because he was using the argument too that all about cells or most of the cells in your body's changed, so it's not really you, and
Yeah.
that's where I kept losing. Which way is I don't know which way he's going with it. Sometimes.
Well, I think Christians have this idea of that you're the same soul, whether you die by abortion or if you die 90 years later, that you are the same exact soul, right? You're one and the same thing when you get into heaven. No difference. Just that you haven't done as much if you're aborted. Like you've had a very limited nightlife, for instance. But
Well,
okay.
that's the thing. My soul hasn't done anything if I have one.
Person in
My soul had no say in it whatsoever with any choice I've ever made. So how would it be fair to even judge my soul?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I didn't plan me. Nobody planned me.
If it's not physical and it's a thing that's outside of us somehow, which it has to be to get to heaven because your body doesn't go, just your soul goes. And how is it connected? And I failed to see how he drew the connection other than to just, it's a magical mirror of yourself that goes to heaven the way you want to be, I guess.
Remember that Eric Hernandez is a groupie of J.P. Moreland, and he wrote Body and Soul, and that's where he's getting a lot of this stuff.
He was on James' favorite show too, Capturing Griftianity. Griftianity.
J.P. Moreland or Hernandez?
Hernandez, yeah, he mentioned it on here.
Oh yeah,
That was in the Q&A that he was on that
Yep.
show, and you can watch the video basically because he gave a 2-hour answer.
yes, there is something called Days Between Dates calculator. Anyway.
And somebody else calls it that too, James. I was watching a video the other day, and somebody called it Capturing Griftianity.
I said
yeah.
it first, damn it. So I want like royalties or something.
Okay, well,
Oh, maybe it was Nitty. It might have been Nitty. I have
But
to
if
hit
we
him
make-
up.
if we create a T-shirt for our merch store, we're gonna divide it evenly, James. I just want you to know we're not gonna.
Sure, why not?
Okay. Okay, let's see what else.
in the absolute concrete sense that you were when you were 4, or am I looking at a different person that exists and the person that was 4 years old no longer exists?
I mean, the second one kind of intuitively does seem true to me because of how I look at the world. But I would say that concretely, I am the same person. I have the same name. It's been me living the same life. I have the same mom. But I don't have the same various positions and stances and beliefs. I don't look at the world the same
But
way.
those aren't essential to being a person. So I guess let me ask.
I think maybe not essential. That one I'd have to think about whether I think they're essential or not. I don't know. I'll agree tentatively for the sake of the discussion
Agree what?
that those are not essential to a person.
All right. So then it would be kind of pointless to name those things have changed, right? Those would be accidental property, not essential property.
Okay.
So why did you name those as changed, and what would that have to do with whether or not you're the same person?
What have to do with whether I'm not on
So
the
I
same
asked
person?
you if you're the same throughout part replacement, and you started saying, well, I have different beliefs, different desires, A, B, C, and D. We just agreed those weren't essential, so what was the point of mentioning those?
I don't know. I'd have to look back and think about why I brought that up and look back in the discussion.
Yeah, he's doing this confusion thing between the legal definition of you, of us. Our legal definition goes with the biological definition of an organism that is born, lives, and dies, right? Which is one thing. And then he's bringing up all these things and asking Leo if he's the same person, and then a colloquial question: are you the same person as you were when you were 9? The answer is fucking no. But
Right.
and then he's
He would
talking
answer.
about,
He would answer the same way. That's why I don't understand why he's using that argument, because he would
Yeah.
say the same exact thing.
he would say you're
Obviously,
the
nobody's
same.
the same they were as 9 years old.
Yeah, but I think Hernandez is going to make the case that you're the same soul, that there's something essential at the core. And that's the same as saying that there is something essential when you take away all of the content of consciousness, saying that there's something left, what it's like to be you. But actually,
How is
what it's like
Leo's-
to be you is only content.
How is Leo's soul still 9 years old?
Yeah.
Right. So if you
And,
take-
and you know,
Or 1 year old, or that doesn't make any sense either.
and if it was a sin to vote Republican, would I be judged today for voting Republican when I was 40? I
Yes,
don't know.
yes, we're going to judge you.
You're gonna judge me, okay? I voted.
Yeah, fair.
My kids are like 4 years old when Reagan was president, and I had them calling him Grandpa.
You know, I won't judge anybody that voted for Trump the first time. Second
I
time,
will. Yeah, I guess.
I think. Well, I'm one of those people. You can vote for whoever you want to. That's the American way, right? I have to stand by the right to vote for whoever you want to vote for, regardless of the reasons. But fool me once, fool me
Yeah.
twice, right?
Yeah,
You have to at least say, hey, I gave the guy a shot and it didn't work out. But they won't say that.
my neighbor voted for Trump, and I kept asking him, "Would you still vote for Trump during his entire administration?" And he kept saying, "Yeah, yeah," and and I'm like, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because he's shaking things up, because he got in there like a bull in a china shop, right?" And I had been afraid to ask him since Trump lost if he would still vote for Trump, because if he told me that he would vote for Trump today, I would have to ask him to move.
Yeah.
I don't want you. I don't want you living this close to me. I'm worried about you. Fucking flying off the handle. Okay, let's see if Hernandez.
That's what I mean. I don't understand which way he's trying to go it, because he seems to be arguing it both ways.
Yeah, I know. Let's see if he saves himself here.
Because I'm
Fair
sort
enough.
of in the moment moving forward.
No, fair enough. So, what is it, I guess, that would ground this concrete identity change?
I don't know if it would be grounded, but probably reality. The reality that we inhabit, the fact that we exist, the fact that we continue to exist.
But I'm asking, how, in your view, do we retain identity change or part replacement? So
Well,
let me.
I don't even understand why we wouldn't, I guess. Why wouldn't we?
Well, if you're just a purely physical object, I would say that aggregates don't retain identity change.
Why not? Wait, so if I had a cup of water and took one molecule of water out of it, it's not the same cup of water?
If mereological essentialism is true, sure. But let's look at it like, okay, let's take a tricycle. A tricycle, by definition, is something with free will.
Mhm.
If you remove a will, you could say that in a metaphysical sense, a tricycle has ceased to exist and a bicycle has come into
Yeah,
existence.
that's analytic, because it's true by
Fair,
definition.
fair enough. Nevertheless, it shows us that aggregates, their existence and identity, this is something I briefly mentioned in my opening, necessarily depend on the parts and their structure.
Well, if it's defined analytically, like a tricycle is, then yes, I would say it depends necessarily on
So-
having three wheels.
Right.
I don't think all of the properties are going to be.
Yeah. So
Real-
he's
real
doing
quick.
the ship of Theseus bullshit.
Yeah.
Where if you replace the ship one piece at a time.
Right.
And he wants to talk about mereology, and he thinks he really has an understanding of this. And from the physicalist point of view, okay, Scott's joining us with his phone. I don't know. From the physicalist point of view, basically, there's two ways to look at a thing, right? You can look at a thing as where the material come from that made it, and then you might end up with a different idea if you replace every part. But the other way you can look at it is it has the same form, and it had the same form when you took out every part and put another part back. And I mean, it's just the way humans look at things, the way humans understand mereology. And Mr. Hernandez is confusing that with ontologically, claiming something is this or that. And he's claiming physical things can't be the same. I think he's saying that on the physicalist view, Leo would not be the same person from one moment to the next, because
He thinks that's a gotcha because he reuses it a few times in different ways. With if you slowly changed a car from part to part to part, when would it cease to be the same car? He repeats it. He likes that argument.
Yeah, Mike.
He's got Leo with it.
My Cadillac is in pieces right now. I don't know if it's the same car. My friend came and started replacing my headlight and took the bumper off, and
Right.
yeah, we'll say, Scott, test your audio. Can't hear a goddamn
Okay,
thing.
can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you.
Scott Dog fan?
We can hear you. Hello, Mr. Scott Duke.
Well, hello. How are you?
We hear you.
Thank you for letting me know that.
Scott is living out there. Scott is out there on Rattlesnake Ranch.
That's right. We're going
In
to call
Texas.
it Rattlesnake.
Beaten and bruised.
Hold on. I gotta chastise the dog. Hold on. Kira?
All right. So, somebody asked how old the debate was. It's hours old. Like it's from today.
Yeah, and it's got 3,170
Wow.
views already.
So here's the thing: the reason this guy keeps being on the attack is because he can't discuss
Yeah.
the soul
he has
because
no
there's nothing
defense.
to discuss. So
Yeah.
he can only just try to find fault with Leo's view because this guy doesn't really have one of his own. And in the meantime, what I've discovered in my journey into the eye is that there is no objectively right way to identify the eye. If somebody has a particular experience when they turn 20 years old and they consider it to be transformative, and if it reaches deep into their sense of identity and they carry that with them into the future when they're 30 and 40 and 50, and if they feel like this more than anything else defines who they are in the world, then it's true because they get to decide what defines them for them. It's their story. They're the narrator. They get to decide what it's worth to them and where to seat their sense of identity. Right? There's no right or wrong answer to that. So if anybody's looking for an objective, factual, let's boil this down and figure out what the I is, they're already on the wrong path. Now, in the meantime, if we eliminate all the things that this guy wants us to eliminate, to say, oh, this doesn't define the self, and neither does this, if we strip away, like we said before, we strip away the ego, and we strip away all of the things that are just ever changing, right? And try to find something underneath it that's base. Well, the base that is the base of sentience for a human is the same for all humans, presumably. At least we have every reason to think it is, no reason to think it's not. So there's just the one soul. It's everywhere, right? And then this piece of that one soul contains certain ideas and feelings and experiences and relationships. But if we strip all those away, underneath that is still just the one soul that's everywhere. So it's just a matter of how you look at it and what works for you as your narrative of identity.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Sometimes I feel like
Yeah.
when I go on these tirades that everybody else in the rooms are like, when's this guy going to shut up? He's not making any sense.
No,
You made perfect sense.
You made perfect sense. So I'm reading a book called.
That's why we didn't say anything, or we would have said, "Man, that didn't make no sense."
Fair. All right. Thanks.
I'm reading a book by. Let's see, where the hell is it here? The Invention. Sentience: The Invention of Consciousness by Nicholas Humphrey, and he talks about how he's watching his newborn son flop around and stuff, and he was thinking, this dude has no integrated whole at all. He has a bunch of different parts that are working independently, right? The day he was born, the hour he was born. And at some point they're all going to come together and they're going to start to swing one way and become one person. And he compared it to, he was sitting at a symphony orchestra performance, and he was there before anybody arrived, and all of the individual players arrived one at a time, and they all started tuning up their instruments independently, and it sounded like this just crazy noise, right? And then after a while, two or three of them would get together and start, working together and synchronizing. And then the conductor would come in and he would kind of put it all together and get them started. But the conductor was more of an illusion because he just, the band plays off of each other as much as they do off of the conductor. So he might start them going on a sequence, but when they get so anyway, it was just a wonderful metaphor and analogy. And he said that, his newborn son within months was going to start, everything was going to start working together. His eyes were going to see where his hand was, and he was going to move his hand at the same time as his eyes saw it. And if he touched something or hit something, he would hear the sound. And now the sound system would come online and become integrated. And then he started talking about when you wake up in the morning. Like, when you wake up in the morning, you're not quite put together for like a second or two. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, I know I'm Mike, and I need a cup of coffee, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And we do that every morning. We kind of come back together, right, with like a symphony orchestra assembling, and then we start playing during the day. And of course, if we don't, they put us in an institution.
And then we have biorhythms. Then we have biorhythms like Dr. Chris and I were discussing. He was on the last time.
Yeah.
So during the day, you're actually a little bit different depending what time of the day it is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, in the morning.
It depends what time of day you die too, what your biorhythm is on what your soul's going to be. It's like, Christ.
Right.
And like James said, you don't have no control over that either.
In the morning, I wake up and have one cup of coffee, and I'm like, I am a god. I'm the god of molecular biology. And by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm such a loser. Nobody loves me. It's like completely different people. I can't do anything. Just anyway.
And that's men and women both have all kind of different cycles going on.
Yep. Yeah, and they're
run by completely different.
This Nicholas Humphrey, his theory on consciousness. Well, no, that's Hidden Spring. That's the other guy. I forget what his name is. He has a theory on consciousness that it comes more from the brainstem, that the reptilian part of your brain is more involved in consciousness than our cortex is, and he makes a pretty good point. And Humphrey is kind of similar in that he has this integrative approach to, but our emotions, those biorhythms, drive what emotional juices squirt out of our the base of our brain, or our midbrain and our brain stem, and that's what controls our overall mood, how fast we're moving, how hungry we are, just all this different stuff, and
like
it all integrates together. What's that?
It does the soul also get affected by hormones? Because we can do really silly, stupid things when the hormones override our brain.
Well, here's a good question from YouTube, Punk. Does my soul
I think
get morning wood?
I think that's the deepest question that's been asked all day.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's like that biological drive overtakes, the reproductive thing back to your, your primal brain, and it tends to turn other things off. I mean.
Yeah, and the fucking Christians are obsessed with the flesh, and they're talking about these basal drives and stuff, and the flesh is constantly at war with the soul. I would hate to be a Christian.
Well, that's the thing, because they won't understand that it's the hormones. It's not demons or anything else. It's hormones. Yeah. That the Afro-atheist covered that poor young man one day that thought he was possessed because he couldn't understand as a teenager why he was, getting busy there with, looking at stuff on the internet. He just couldn't understand why he had these drives. And it's like every teenager does. He just had no clue that every teenager is doing that.
Right.
And they, of course, that's good for them because they're going to push it. Oh yeah, that's demons. You need Jesus. That's the solution.
How many hours out the day?
That from AA, Mike.
What's that?
How many hours out of the day when you were a teenager did you spend with an erection?
Christ.
That was always a problem. It was always a problem when the bell rang and you had to get up.
Exactly.
Oh man.
And
it knew. It knew when the bell was going to ring.
Yeah, and when a teenage boy was shaking his leg under the desk a lot, you kind of knew what was happening.
For no reason.
Yeah.
If the teacher called you up to the blackboard at the wrong time, you're like, no.
Eddie Murphy did that. He's Mr. Murphy. Would you like to come up and work out this problem on the board? No, thank you. I'll take the 0.
And then now,
he was talking about, you're just sitting there minding your own business, and it's like looking around for some reason, and it's like, get down.
I don't care what religion you are, unless you're some sort of spiritual prodigy, that's going to happen to you. And now imagine being made to feel guilty and feel demonic because you want to keep touching it or keep getting that feeling. It's a cruel doctrine, depending on how strenuously you take this idea of sins of the flesh, or the flesh causing you to do vile and dirty things. It's it's a shame, really.
So, oh my God, I just remember this book I'm reading by Nicholas Humphrey. He talks about this professor of his in 1961. He did a talk on erectile dysfunction and drugs that stop it. And he injected him. He walked onto the stage with this huge fucking boner, and you could see it through his pants. And then he explained to the audience, I injected myself with so many milligrams of something. And then he drops his pants, and then he asks everybody if they want to check the tumescence. And this guy was known to experiment on himself. Can you imagine getting away with that in 2023 as a lecturer? But this guy sounded like a real character. He when he met him, he was sitting in a dark room in his boxer shorts, and he had electrodes hooked up to his fucking eye and his head, and he was doing something to his eye with an electrical wand. And that's how he met the guy. So the guy was always explaining on it or experimenting on himself. Sounds like a real character, but I can't find the part in the book where just off the bat. But I will be talking more about this book. Anyway, should we roll a little bit and see what else Mr. Hernandez has to say this evening?
Anxiously awaiting.
Oh yeah.
Analytic.
So I think again you're arguing the analogy, not the principle. But let me grant that. So you're familiar with the ship of Theseus.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So I use an example of a car. So that it's the same car, or at what point does it cease to be the same car?
There he goes.
How many parts will have to change before it's no longer the same car?
I don't know if you would make it necessarily a different car. I think identity has a lot to do with us and how we identify things.
There you go,
rather
Leo.
than being contained in the.
Right. It has to do with how we make a judgment of what is identical, right? And I mean, that's pretty fucking simple. And humans can do it one way, or they can do it another way. And Leo just caught that one. And let's see what.
Hey, I'll bring an excuse note from the principal here later if I need to, but I didn't see the debate, and I was just wondering really quickly what the format was like. This seems to be a dialogue kind of debate, or section of a debate. Was there like presentations, rebuttals, and
they had a short
dialogue?
They had a verbal, like maybe 5 or 10 minute introduction, both of them, and then it went 50 minutes open forum or open conversation, and then Q&A at the end.
Okay.
Typical debate,
Thanks.
yeah. Yep, I have like 40 bookmarks up to 56. I think I bookmarked every minute. Anyway,
Ryan pretty much let him go. I don't think he said a word until he gave him a warning. The time was about up.
yep. Okay.
Thing itself. So if I had a
And Ryan needs to stand up straight.
Who?
That was just bugging me. Ryan, the moderator,
Oh, okay. I didn't see
when
that.
he was the guy when he was asking questions,
Oh,
his posture is terrible.
really?
He's going to have issues. You need to stand up straight.
Oh, yeah.
Force yourselves to stand up straight. That hunched over thing, that's just going to lead to so many problems.
Hunchback. You'd be the hunchback.
Throw that chest out. Be proud.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
I like Ryan. I don't mean to nitpick, but he needs to fix his posture. It was really bad.
We'll send him a note.
I will. He does after shows a lot. I'm going to tell him.
Autopilot when the CO or P goes up, and if you require a different flavor, what the hell? what is happening here? I missed something. I'm not sure what I missed here. It's Chris Moore. So anyway, okay.
He goes on autopilot basically.
Okay, I'm gonna play more. Okay,
How do you explain that? So
here we go.
I don't know, a 2004 Ford Taurus, and then it was blue, and then I painted it red. That's the same car. I don't think making it red makes it a completely different thing altogether. It's still that one same Ford Taurus that I purchased.
So going back to, so I'm asking ontologically, I would disagree that identity is more about us, because if no one existed, the law of identity would still exist. That
I don't think so.
something is identical to itself.
Fuck.
So if we did not exist, things would cease to be identical to themselves.
That law wouldn't exist. The law is an abstraction convented by humans. What it may
law-
refer to might still exist, but just like people who say the laws of logic would still exist even if we didn't. No, they
You
wouldn't.
don't think that really?
No, that we convented the laws of logic. They're
We invented the laws of logic?
I disagree with Leo.
Okay. This, I think, could very easily be informed by the Taoist idea that when you name a thing, it's no longer the thing. There's the interaction between physical or maybe abstract objects, I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's definitely the relationship between things, objects, and ideas that exist. And whether we describe them or not, they're interacting.
Yeah. Yeah,
When they become laws is when we describe the ongoing existing relationship.
Yep.
And that's how we know about hypotenuses and
Yeah.
the 180 degrees that make up of what the inside of the total angles of a triangle, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And so
Leo,
it's just a reification. It's just making something that does not exist in reality acting like it does exist in reality. That's what
because
laws are.
aliens could have totally different math and physics,
Well.
and a complete different way of coming around to still explaining the same exact thing, right?
Yeah, I don't think I think it would be very homologous for aliens, basically. But anyway,
I hope we get to find out.
we will. So anyway, Leo came up with a very, very, very good thing that, it depends on how we look at it, as to whether or not we're going to call it identical. And if he paints his car, he's going to call it the same car. And then Hernandez says, oh, but ontologically, the law of identity, and he goes on into the law of identity, that a thing is identical to itself. I mean, only a human could come up with something that inane. I mean, like,
And that's why I said he's coming back to that same argument.
Yeah.
How much of the car do you have to change?
yeah, it's like, what the fuck is this point? That you're not going to be the same. Let's see if he has a point.
But like you said before, Mike, though, your experiences also affect on what you are now.
Yeah.
So even if the experiences were not ideal or how you see things now before, that also may have been why you don't see them the same now.
Yeah,
Maybe you just thought about it more or something like that.
if you had a big, huge bucket of concrete and you had a little tiny paddle at the bottom of it, and you started to turn that paddle, parts of the concrete at the bottom would rotate and change faster, and the top would be static, right? And then in between, there would be all shades in between. And as you rotated it, you might be able to start to turn over the top stuff eventually, right? But I mean, there's this thing about being a person. There are some parts of me that change very slowly, and yet other parts that change in every instant. I am not the same person between any two 1 second periods of consciousness. I become different. I have different memories, different sensations.
I need one of you scientists to explain to me why, when you add water to concrete, it doesn't increase the volume.
Doesn't increase the volume?
Nope.
Oh, maybe, let's see. Well, then it would crystallize, and the crystal would be more compact than the constituents basically are going to be loosely packed, so they're going to have some space. But it's a whole bunch of stuff with concrete and water. Like, for instance, you can get electrocuted on concrete because it's got a lot of water in it.
Somebody challenged this guy online. He said, no, watch. So he poured the concrete in a Tupperware.
Okay.
He marked it with a black line. He poured it back out in a bucket, mixed it up with water. He poured it back in, and it comes right exactly to the same line.
Oh, cool. Oh,
Pretty neat.
have you asked ChatGPT?
No, I just saw the video earlier, so I thought I would ask you because this is answers in atheism. So, you're supposed to have an answer.
Volume.
He's got a point there. He's got a point there.
Well, fuck you.
It's pretty neat, though. It doesn't change. You add water, you figure it's got to change, right? That's just what you're going to think.
Well,
But it doesn't. The line doesn't change. It's really weird.
okay, ChatGPT said it's an oversimplification, but it's based on a general understanding of how concrete works. Here are a few reasons to explain this phenomena. It's on reason 5, 6, still going, 7. How many reasons do you want? Anyway, yeah, there are a lot of reasons.
It has something to do with it has something to do with the chemistry, how it doesn't displace or something.
Well,
how it binds or something.
the first reason is the ratio of water. You add very little water, actually, so you're not going to see any small changes because you don't add that much water. And then hydration of cement. When water is added to the cement, a chemical. Why are we off on this? Chemical reaction called hydration occurs. The cement particles start.
Because they were talking about concrete.
Yeah, they start to bond and grow crystalline structures. Locking
Okay,
the
there it is.
aggregates and sand particles together, the process does involve a slight volume change, but it's not significant enough to cause a noticeable expansion or contraction in the
Okay.
bulk.
It's so small you don't really see it unless you measure really.
Yeah. To be precise, if one was to measure with high precision, there would be some changes in the volume as water was added. So there you go. You
Can I
can't.
make a point real quick about this law of identity thing?
Yeah.
Is it being misunderstood or misstated? Because if the law of identity is a thing is identical to itself, that would have no bearing on whether or not you replaced the headlights or painted it or whatever, because at that time, the thing is identical to itself. It's just a changed thing.
Yeah.
It changed, and so now it's identical to a different thing, but it is identical to itself. So I don't know. I think maybe it's being misunderstood or misquoted. Or
Well,
something.
No, I'm confused too, Scott. That's why I've been saying through the whole thing, he seemed to be going both ways, and I couldn't figure out which way he was actually trying to argue.
Well,
His arguments seemed to go both ways.
Let's look into his mind a little bit, okay? He has the idea of the soul, the God-given soul, which is just one concrete thing that never changes. It's always the same soul. So he's confusing that with things in the world, which of course always change through time. Things mix up, they break apart, they grow, they die, some parts stay the same, some parts change. And he's confused by his own religion, is what's happening here, I think. But let's see if he redeems himself. Ready to roll? See what else he has to say?
Let's roll.
We're rolling.
Roll it.
Can you
We
explain that?
abstracted them out of our understanding of things around us as a formalized system of thought. We didn't exist. I mean, this thing isn't going to just magically turn into an apple, but the law of logic that we invented that talks about that and formalizes that as a system of thought wouldn't exist.
So let's look at a physical law.
Mhm.
If everyone in the world today died, would gravity cease to exist?
Of course not.
Okay, so then laws
But the
can
theories of gravity would,
so
certainly.
laws can continue to exist, and laws describe something in reality.
What the laws describe, I think, can, but the laws themselves are abstractions.
So I
developed
don't know
by
what you mean
humans.
by the laws themselves. Are you talking about like the
Like
words?
the content of them. Like gravity would continue to exist. The law of gravity would not. General relativity would not, because humans made those.
It sounds like you're using an idiosyncratic use of the word "exist" because I'm not talking about like the phrase, the law of identity. I'm talking about the
Neither
fact
am I.
that-
I'm talking about that concept as developed by humans.
I'm not asking about the concept. There are certain laws.
You're asking about identity then. Do things, would this, if humans didn't exist, say this laptop still did, even though
Yes.
humans made it, it's just a hypothetical, this laptop would still be this laptop. It'd still be identical to
Right, because
itself.
nothing's going to break the laws of logic.
Well, the laws of logic are invented by us. But yeah, I agree that they don't break. They're generally considered universal and necessary.
Okay, so going back to this is why I'm saying I don't think identity is about us or how we perceive things. We're trying to describe reality, the ontology of reality. So going back to the aggregate thing,
Yeah, and here, okay, he's trying to develop the ontology of reality, right? Now, in his mind, he thinks the soul is one ontologically singular thing that never changes from the moment the zygote is or the egg is fertilized until for eternity, right? So that's what he thinks. But he's confusing that with reality, where nothing ever is the same forever, or even for very long. Don't you think? He's confused by his own religion.
Yeah, I've been confused by his arguments the whole time, and I even replayed some of it and watched it again.
Yeah.
I'm still not clear on what he was trying to argue for.
Maybe he'll clear it up here. Let's see. I doubt it.
I
at
thought
what
he made a
point-
lot of
how many-
Leo's points for him.
Yeah. Yeah, what the fuck?
How many parts of a car do I have to replace before it ceases to be the same car?
I don't think it would necessarily
Wait,
used to be the same.
Here we go again.
He's confused.
But I think it just depends on who you ask. Some people might say if I put bigger tires on it, that's not the same car.
But
I
clearly,
would say that it is.
clearly,
I think religious people are generally confused by the physical, by the fucking reality that they live in. They're confused. They've grown these minds, these big fucking fat brains on the, on the top of their bodies, and they have confused themselves with their own brains. It's like, what the fuck?
Well, he just thinks that's a great. What'd you say the name of that argument is?
The ship of Theseus, where you replace one. Yeah.
I think he's got that written on his cuff there.
Yeah, I think
as a cheat note.
J.P. Moreland uses it in his argument. Let's see if there's a wiki entry here. Ship of Theseus. I can put it out there.
So I
Every
include.
time he's stuck, he looks at his cuff and he goes, "Oh yeah, the ship of Theseus."
Yeah. The ship of, and then he lifts the other wrist up. Theseus. He couldn't
Yeah.
write it all in one. But yeah, I mentioned the ship of Theseus in the blog that I wrote just this last week about identity.
Yeah, you did. Actually, you did. I remember that. People actually read your blogs. Some people read your blogs. Unless they get 20 feet long, then I got to admit that I tend to...
Right.
Yeah, I tend to get hungry. Like, okay, I'm hungry. I got to go to the bathroom, James.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
You wait for it to come out in hardcover, then you'll be able to read it.
Yeah, right. Then I'll read the whole thing.
You need a podcast, James. It'll be,
Yeah, podcast.
Yeah, I do. That's a really
No.
great idea.
Yep.
that's your thing. And you wouldn't have to deal with anybody. You just record your podcast and put it up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I like dealing with a lot of people around here. But
I'm kidding. I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
no, that's fair though. I mean, sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I just want to get out there and get something said. But
Yeah.
that's. I guess I could simultaneously do it, right? Like I could, have.
Yeah, you can do both.
Yeah, I could do both at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh God, we're bleeding viewers, aren't we? What the hell? Okay.
Well, it is.
It's Saturday. It's Saturday night. There's probably a lot of others.
Yeah, Saturday night. I went out and spent an hour at like midnight last night with my neighbors out around a fire, which was really fun, really cool. I need to
Hello, Purple.
I need to get out more. Hi, Purple. Greetings, sentient beings. Oh, but what do you mean by sentient?
Uh-oh. Don't get us started.
how does the physicalist defend that? The thing is, Hernandez was pretty much attacking Leo's ideas the whole time and not really doing a lot of representing of his own. He did in the beginning, I guess.
Right, exactly. Yep. That's it. I wasn't getting what his argument was, other than, well, Leo, you can have it this way or that way. And it's like, well, yeah, he's basically saying, well, yeah, you can have it Leo's way, or you can have it the theological view. But Leo's view is still based in naturalism.
Yeah.
He can demonstrate something, and you can't demonstrate it.
I'm still trying to figure out what is the ontology of reality, what that means. My brain's just sitting here spinning on that. It sounds like gobbledygook.
Gobbledygook. Well, philosophy talk.
It's your worldview.
Yeah.
Worldview is just in, well, what's your worldview? Well, that's in how you interpret reality.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then you're just denying reality. Well, I'm not denying reality. I just interpreted it differently. Isn't that the same thing?
With the law of identity, go ahead and add a new muffler to your car. It's still identical to itself. It doesn't matter. It's just a bad example. That doesn't do the work that Hernandez seems to think it does.
but how about
if you have a car long enough and you end up replacing all the parts just because you have it long enough, it's still your car.
Yeah, but what if you replace the VIN number? Then what happens? You get arrested.
Then you get arrested. Yeah.
The state takes that VIN number really fucking that identity.
The lady at the title bureau looks up at you with the upward looking eyes, like.
I'll be right back. Just one moment.
I gotta make you stay right here.
Yeah,
I gotta make a call.
You're handcuffed on the floor.
And they got deputies right next door at the DMV, so they're not far away.
Yep. The car of Theseus. Yep. Oh, anyway, my neighbors moved. We had a house that was virtually vacant for 20 years. There was an elderly lady that would come every 3 weeks and weed the lawn. And then these neighbors were going to move in, and I was just absolutely horrified that we would have neighbors suddenly on the east side. And if I had handpicked the neighbors that I got, it would have been exactly who they are. I mean, they are the perfect, they're almost copies of us. And I think they're all subscribed to this channel too. So anyway, good neighbors. I really appreciate them. Lucked out. Okay.
And I got crap all over. Jeez.
Yeah.
Stupid demons live next door.
Yeah, I think the first conversation we had, I went over there and said something about, I hope you couldn't hear my music. And he said, oh, yeah, we called the cops on you. And I'm like, okay, this guy has a good sense of humor. Because, of course, they didn't. Anyway.
Well, the problem, that was me and the old man. He was just like, the old lady next door turned out to.
I had two identical 1964 Chryslers at one point. They were identical. I mean, like identical twin Chryslers. I don't know why. I think I bought them both for $100 each. So
now, hypothetically, if you did something that we're not saying anybody should do, and you change the VIN numbers,
yeah,
it'd still be the same car.
They wouldn't have noticed. Yeah, would it have been the same car?
If nobody knows,
problem.
Get away with
it.
The
car of Theseus. We should write a book.
I like that car of Theseus.
Yeah. Oh,
He definitely likes that argument. I think he comes back to it 3-4 times.
We got a few more minutes before they divert.
The reality doesn't depend on who you ask when it comes to those kind of things.
Well, certain features of reality don't, and I think that certain others do. And I don't know if I would consider identity to be a feature of reality or more something that we talk about with respect to it.
There you go.
Okay. So in my thought experiment about replacing the tires, would it be the same car?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Just
Replace.
like if I change the oil, the same car.
So replace every single part. Same car.
Yeah.
So if I took the replaced parts, put them together, 2 cars, which is the original?
Which is the original? Well, the original would be the one if you took all the original parts that were replaced and put those together, that one would be the original car.
But earlier when I asked you if I replaced the tires, that one was still the original car.
Well, no, it wasn't the original car. It was still
Well,
identical to itself. It
Okay,
was
right. But
still that car.
identity, so it's still that car, which means the original.
Well, that one, but once you take all.
Okay, this is
That
interesting.
made absolutely no.
This
That made
is
no
interesting.
sense again.
I mean, yeah, he's trying to catch Leo up on this, philosophical argument.
Well, and something else he said, if you take the tire off the car, it's still a tire.
Right.
But if I cut my arm off, it's not an arm anymore because it's going to disintegrate. It's like, well, so's the tire. It's just going to take longer.
Yeah. And, if you had 2 cars and one was parked in lot A and the other was parked in lot B, and the first car was the one in lot A, and then you took all the parts one at a time and went over and put them on lot B, you'd want to say that the car in lot A was the same car as the one you drove in, right? The first one you bought. And but that's just how we think of it, right? I mean, it's not reality. Shit changes and shit gets mixed up. But who would ever do? I wonder if anybody's ever actually done that. Has that ever happened on the planet Earth? Take one car and slowly replace one part at a time with another car, and then ask yourself, which one is the right car? Well, I guess the state would go by the VIN number. If you switch out that little VIN plate, or all the VIN plates hidden around the car, then you would have it. But I mean, so what? It's so easy to understand this from a physical standpoint.
If you cut up a car and make a hot rod out of it, when you get all done, you have to have it go re-inspected because you've changed it enough that it no longer identifies with what it says on the VIN.
Yeah.
So then they have to change everything to say, no, it's no longer a Chevy Malibu. It's an off-road rat car or whatever they call it because it's been modified enough. So yeah, then it would no longer be that car. But you're talking about the only thing they have left is just a piece of the chopped frame. That's all that's left. Everything else is different. It's just because it's got that VIN plate on there. That's the only thing really that counts. Is that little piece right there. Because that number's on.
Is identity a social construct? Kind of. It depends on what attitude you have when you're talking about, identical things. It's like if I don't know. Like if I give you my snowblower, borrow my or loan you my snowblower, and you bring back a different one that's identical, the same exact model. I don't know. It depends on your attitude toward it. So yeah, in a way, it is kind of a construct.
Well,
You break it, you bought it. That's the right thing to do.
maybe they're not the same exact thing, but they are equivalent.
Yeah, they're going to do the same work, right?
With the idea of it being the same thing, plus or minus a certain variation in various properties. I mean, if there's one thing that you can change in it that would make it, not a Chevy Malibu anymore, like changing the name, the brand plate or whatever that identifies that its model, maybe it's no longer equivalent. But it also depends on what criteria are you using to establish equivalency. So
Yeah, if you put new tires on the car, it could make the car better in a way because it's not going to slip on the road.
yeah,
And
it's
back
like
to do something like if you messed up in your life and then you corrected it and you made things better, now your life is a lot better. So those both of those analogies are things changing, but then he's back to the soul doesn't change and I'm still stuck on what is what you know what, where is your soul at?
You know, and all of this relies on specific cases, right? Like one specific case. I mean, and you can imagine a whole lot of stories where there's a lot of gray areas. And it's kind of the same with morality and many other things with human beings that, you know, it depends on the individual specific instance that we're talking about. Like for instance, if you borrow my snowblower and you break it, you buy an identical snowblower and you bring it back and you don't tell me, you know, it's like that is one specific case. But if you do tell me, I'm going to think it's a different snowblower. But if you don't tell me, I'm not going to know the fucking difference, right? It's like it depends on, and what philosophers like to do is they try to take these specific examples and trip you up, you know, by you'll start to make claims and it'll sound contradictory because when you generalize it, it's a whole different deal, you know, and it's like they're trying to make a general case out of specific ones, and that's what he's doing here, I think. But let's listen to him some more. I never get enough of Eric.
May I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
How did Eric define the soul?
He didn't.
That's what we're having trouble with.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't
it seems like that really needs defining.
Right, it's that, yeah, and he says, "Oh, that's an epistemic question and not an ontological one." And I don't
Defining
know.
a soul?
He kept saying that over and over. And when Leo was asking him specifics of how souls work, and he kept saying, "Oh no, I'm not going to talk about that. That's epistemic. We're talking about ontology." So
No, it's epistemic if you ask, well, how does the soul work?
yeah, but
You know,
what is the soul is an ontological question, and I don't think he did a good job of explaining that.
Well, no, and
Well, I
actually
all he
what I
said
mean
is
is it's only epistemological if you say, how do I know it works that way? Somebody's definition is not epistemic. It's
Right.
I think Leo might have said something like that.
Yeah.
It's just you're just saying the soul, but whereas science can say, well, it's because the neurons are doing this, etc., firing.
The other reason why I didn't want to address this whole video is because there's no transcript yet, and I want to see the transcript.
Yeah.
So, but in the very beginning, I think Hernandez starts talking about. Mostly, what he's doing is attacking physicalism and not really talking about what he's talking. You know, what is your idea? How do you think this shit works?
But all he said is that the soul is non-physical.
Yeah, because Leo could have turned it around and started asking him, okay, if you go to heaven when you're 9 or heaven when you're 40 or heaven when you're 70, which one is the soul? You know, what is the common thing between those three cases that you're going to...
That's one thing Leo missed. Is that I don't think he hit back enough.
Yeah, I think...
what is the soul?
When you're in a debate, you're frequently the victim of the rhetoric that that comes out fast and furious, and Leo missed a few things on that, and he also missed something in the earlier debate where he could have told, where originally when they were talking about what came before the universe began, before time and space began, and Leo said that's like north of the North Pole. Leo should have stuck to that, but he let the guy move him off the mark, by asking further questions. And but when I'm in a debate, that happens to me all the time. I get distracted from the original thing that I'm trying to put out. And a really good, really professional debater wouldn't let that happen. He keep going back.
You wouldn't start asking ChatGPT about concrete and water?
Yeah. A real good debater wouldn't do that.
We have to know these things. We have to know these things.
And I admit, I can't debate for shit. So.
But Leo did a good job.
He did a really good job.
And he was professional and courteous,
yes.
Gentleman, while he did it. So
It was
I know a lot of people think he's a bit hot-headed, but he did a nice job.
Yeah, and some of the things that he was soft pedaling, his style was very soft, but some of the things that he was hitting Hernandez with were really kind of powerful and kind of artful on Leo's behalf. So If you just listen to it, he was like, "What do you mean by that?" Like he just nailed him on a whole bunch of things.
And if Hernandez doesn't think people can change, I got news for him. Leo's still a young man.
Yeah. Yep.
Wait till he gets some more years of experience under his
Oh
belt
my
and
God.
comes back again.
I can just imagine him when he's in his 50s and 60s. He's going to be a fucking force to deal with. So, mutable destiny. What the fuck? What the fuck? Where Leo was? He's in.
Dallas.
He's in Dallas. I don't think Leo's here. I think he's in a hotel room somewhere. Right? No, he's off getting drunk with the group.
Yeah, that's
He had
what I
a
was
photo on Facebook of himself on the airplane brushing up on a physics book as he was flying down there.
Okay, cool. Let's see. The concept of good faith goes out the window too. But yeah,
I was telling my wife earlier, James must be doing things all right. He can afford to fly people in, and I know some of the people he has on get speaking fees too. So he's making enough to pay bills and everything. So must be doing all right.
yeah, he must be doing pretty good if he can fly people in for these things.
Good for him.
3,300 views now, and I think it was 3,000 just a little while ago. So
But sometimes James at MDD gets a hard time with that, but he does put in a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
well, some of the debates he has are just like very curious as
Yeah.
to why even.
Well, that's like everything else. I don't like flat Earth stuff all that much. I like to support Grayson, so I watched a few minutes, but I'm sorry, Grayson, I couldn't watch the whole thing.
I was thinking that maybe Eric Hernandez's confusion over identity may be the source of why these fundamentalists have so much trouble with pronouns.
Oh, there weren't any pronouns a few years ago.
They're very, very confused about, yeah. Yeah, they didn't have.
Even though I pointed out right there in the Bible, it said, and God created us in our image. He created them.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, where'd that word
had
come from?
pronouns back then? Wow.
When did they stick that word in there?
Yeah. Debate is what I put on the hook to catch the fish. There you go. Okay.
Well, and you can get your fill because it's going all day tomorrow too. It's all weekend.
Yeah.
At least Purple bothered to define debate.
Debate.
Leo's going to do 2 more debates tomorrow too.
Debate.
Missed him today. You can catch him again tomorrow.
Man, they just
Doing
like
a couple other tomorrow.
loaded up the roster with some Leo, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Four debates he's on.
Well, he flew him in and everything, so get his money's worth.
By the
Plus,
fourth,
what else is he going to do? Just sit around for a couple days?
by the fourth debate, he'll probably be a babbling idiot. But anyway, he's did pretty good.
The last one's like 8 or 9 o'clock tomorrow.
Oh my God, he's gonna be tired.
And he's probably going to hop on a red eye after that.
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna play a little bit more, and then we're gonna hang her up.
All of the original parts and then replace them with new parts and then take those original parts and build that car again. You've rebuilt the original car.
So if we
And
stick
then
to
that one
one,
is identical to that one, and this one is
so
identical to
at
this
what
one.
point in replacing the parts of this car did it cease to be the original?
Did it cease once you replaced all of them?
So
And then rebuilt the other car. So if you just replaced all the parts and then did nothing with them, that's still the same car.
okay, so I don't see how identity would have to be dependent on something external to itself, and identity is an intrinsic property.
I'm not going to say that it isn't. I just don't know if I agree if it is.
Well, that's what you're saying. That's what would have to be.
Yeah, this whole fucking thing is about what your judgment would be of what is identical, and that would depend on a whole lot of very specific things about what you're doing exactly, right? Like if you can imagine having a garage with a bunch of cars, and you're going to take one and you're going to replace everything with the other, one at a time, exchange it. It would be up to your judgment as to which car was which when you got done. I mean, and
I've got an old car in my garage I want to fix up one of these days, and it needs a lot of work. And
is it going to be the same car?
replaced? It's going to be the same car.
At what point is it?
I would still call it the same car.
Yeah, but at what point is it going to be a better car? I mean, like, how many parts do you have to replace before you would call it a better car than it was?
There's no replacement for displacement.
So this is classic philosophy stuff. Okay, this is what I mean by philosophers being fucking weenies. This is classic. He keeps going back, and I hope he's got a point at the end of this. This should end pretty soon, right? This part. Let's
I'm
see
fine
if
by
I
what
can-
you're saying, because you're saying that this car would still be the original unless I put the replaced parts back together. Then it somehow ceases to be the original in virtue of this
The
one's
original,
existence.
yes, but I don't think originality and identity are the same thing.
So if something is the same, it's going to be the original. If we use original car as it is the same thing as in
Is
philosophy of
this
mind,
car identical
identity,
to itself?
yes.
Okay, then no, it's not original because it's no longer identical
Right.
to itself because this one has all the new parts, not those original parts of that car sitting over there. So
Right.
that one's the original, and that one is identical to this self. This one is now new, and it's still also identical to itself. Now, if they're the same exact car, they would be identical to each other. There would just be a
But there would be
hakeseity
one
between
car.
them.
There would
Well,
be
there
only
would be
one
two
car.
because you have the one built
But
from
you
the original
can't have
parts and the
something
one built
identical
from
to
the
two
new
things.
Yeah.
There is a sense in which, like, Billy Bob can go out to the car dealership and look for a car that's going to satisfy him, that he's going to prefer, and he's going to look and look and look. And let's say once again use the Chevy Malibu. He takes his 2023 Chevy Malibu to trade it in, and he drives the new one home, and somebody can say, like his family will look out the window and go, he got the same car. But maybe what he did was he got an identical car. But was the sentence I used invalid? Was it wrong? Did he get the same car? Yes, he got the same car. But then you have to start talking about the sense in which that statement is accurate. It's accurate in the sense that it's a Chevy. It's accurate in the sense that it's a Malibu. It may be, green now instead of red, and it may be the 2024 model now. But to say it's the same car is a correct sentence. You have to decide upon for complex things.
It's
You
a
have to
judgment.
decide upon the level of precision in which you're going to accept the conclusion of sameness or equivalent or equal.
And it's
so
going
I
to make
think
a difference.
this is what Eric is hiding behind. It's a word game
Yep.
that he just has fallen in love with.
And it has to do with meaning too. You see these videos where the son buys a car for the father that he had to sell, back in the day when they needed money or something, and then he buys, but it doesn't mean he bought the exact car, right? But he bought the same kind of car.
Yeah.
And the father immediately feels that that's my car, even though you could check the VIN and it's not the same. But he's gonna, that emotion of everything, and the son buying you that car that you had to sell because, you were a struggling parent or whatever, and paying back your father. Hey, I got your car back. And that's going to be your car to you. That's going to be your car, even though you could check the VIN and it's not the same.
Icarus came up with a good question for.
Damn, this is a good question.
Yeah.
I would say, in the strict sense, no,
Yeah.
because it's not taking the same atoms and putting them over somewhere else. It's
Because you don't actually get beamed somewhere; you get reanimated somewhere else.
Yeah, you get taken
material.
apart, and you're.
But are you still conscious? They're still conscious, though, aren't they?
I don't think.
After you've teleported on Star Trek, you're still conscious, aren't you?
Yeah, you reassemble conscious, but there
Reassemble
might
consciousness.
be a period of time between eking out of existence and getting put back into existence where
You're in
you
the
have
buffer.
no memory of anything, no awareness.
But they can reanimate you and like what Leo was asked earlier, or at the end there, the Q&A that we played earlier, that if you could put everything, replace everything, the teleporter basically replaces everything, including consciousness.
I'd love to see Eric go in front of a judge after he committed a traffic offense and start arguing with him about the identity of his car.
Or him, or himself. I'm not the guy.
Yeah, or him, right? Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I took a few showers. That scraped a lot of skin cells
Yeah,
off.
I'm not saying that.
I've had my hair trimmed and my beard trimmed since then. It's not the same person.
How do you think? How favorably would the judge look at lessening his fine in that case, or would he get the maximum allowed by law?
Some of these old cars, they strip them down and they give them the acid baths and everything, and the floorboards are half rotted out, and they have to replace a lot of the metal and everything and stuff. But when it gets all rebuilt and it's all cherry again, I would still call it my car, even though it's had most of the metal replaced and all the wiring and all the plumbing and all the tubing and everything that would have to be redone on when they do one of those complete rebuilds down to the frame and everything.
So
It would still be my car. So I would say that you can change just about everything and still call it your car.
So Eric Hernandez really wants this ship of Theseus to be accepted, that it's a different thing.
What is his point?
Because that would require a soul.
Right.
To be that which persists.
Yeah. Yeah, like what overall is the point he's trying to make with Leo? He's trying to prove that it can't possibly be physical because we could replace all the parts, and it wouldn't be I don't know what he's saying. And
there has to be a soul to get you into heaven because you don't go bodily. So there has to be something, whatever they call it.
So it's really simple. God has a VIN number stamped on your fucking soul, right? A VIN number, and that's how God does it, just like the state does it with your car. So it's a convention that God has created called the VIN number of your soul. Soul VIN. A soul VIN? Is that like a soul van? Soul VIN?
Well, especially in Christianity, because it's all based on grace. So you can be a screw up and your VIN can still say screw up, but it's going to get a stamp with a grace because you get forgiven. So I don't really think it matters if you have a good or a bad soul, because you're into heaven in Christianity under grace, so it's because you're forgiven. So it doesn't really matter. And I'm still stuck on what is your soul then? I'm still stuck. I have no idea what he's trying to make.
Maybe Hernandez is trying to explain to Leo that we can't have a sense of identity if we're physicalists. I don't know. I'm not sure. You need a soul to do that. You need God's VIN number if you want.
You can't know anything if you're just molecules in motion.
That's right. Yeah, and you can't be moral if you don't have a foundation from God.
Bullshit.
Okay, let's see if this wraps up.
Okay.
Everything's
I didn't
identical to
say that.
itself and not something
Yeah,
else.
Of
right?
course. Well, you can't have two things that are identical. An electron and
No,
another electron are identical
We're
to each
using.
other.
I feel like you're using the word identical in an idiosyncratic, non-philosophy of mind jargon kind of way.
Well, I would
What?
probably use it more in the way that a metaphysician would use it,
Well, that's
rather
why
than
I'm
a
using it.
philosopher of mind. And
Well,
if I had
metaphysician-
two electrons, one in this hand and one in this hand, they're identical to each other. They
Okay,
possess the
so
same properties.
that's not so. Law of identity is one of the three basic laws of logic. Leibniz's law of identity is also a basic law, and that's how identity is typically used almost virtually any and everywhere. So I don't see how.
Well, things can be identical to themselves, but I also think things can be identical to other things that share all the exact same properties.
Yeah.
There would just be a haexeity between them, a thisness between them. So like I was saying, I can have an electron in this hand and another electron in this hand, and they're identical to each other. There is no property
you're
about
using
them that will differ.
identical in a non-philosophical way, though.
I don't think I am.
He's using it in the way you should use it, right? If you got an electron in one hand, it's identical to itself, and the other electron, not the same electron, but it's identical to the other electron. And philosophers have trouble understanding things because they believe in all these paradoxes they've came up with. It's just like, what the fuck?
So are they literally the same?
Yeah, there's just a high excitement.
Literally.
A thisness that separates them is still being, there are still two electrons there. They're just identical to each other.
So these two separate electrons
Mhm.
are literally the same electron.
They're not the same electron, but they are
That's
both
what identity
identical
is.
to each
Well,
other in that they are electrons.
That's what's meant by identity.
I don't take
literally the
identity.
same
I
thing.
just don't take identity to mean. I think two things with all of the same exact properties are identical
That's
to each other.
how it's used in philosophy.
That's fine. I know philosophy.
Didn't he just do a bandwagon kind of
Can you name
Yep.
some?
fallacy?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, he does that 2 or 3 times during the first 50 minutes of the debate. Like what was it? Most neuroscientists now say that consciousness is not a scientific problem. That's definitely not fucking something that he could claim. I don't think they've ever done a survey like that. So anyway, he does this a lot. Let's see. Yeah, the property that distinguishes two identical electrons is their position in space and time. That fucking simple. Okay.
They're still identical.
How long is this gonna last?
Hearing their names.
Okay.
That's just because they're also
It
online.
looks like it
and
goes
because
on and on and on.
They want me.
I don't
Looking
know.
at
You
that
guys
red-
wanna stick to the bitter end, or should we fucking move on? I mean, this is just bullshit. It's just
Yeah, they're bogged
philosophy
down.
bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Or
think
shall I say
that's
Eric
it.
is bogged down?
Yeah.
That one other guy asked a good question too. I think the first Q&A guy asked a good question. If you want to check that out before we wrap things up.
Oh, let's see. Where's the Q&A start here?
Big guy. I'm pretty sure he was the first question.
This guy? That guy?
I think so.
The first Q&A guy?
See, look at Ryan's posture. Come on, that's not good posture.
Oh, yeah, that's not good posture. You should
Not
just,
good posture.
you better write him. You better call him up and tell him what your opinion is
It's
about.
for his own good. It's for his own good.
It's right. Tell him that you're doing this for his own good.
You'll get that hunch thing going, and then when you're 80, you're all bent over and everything.
Is this the big guy you're talking about?
Pretty sure, yeah. It's the first question.
He ain't that big.
Computer, and I can take the processors and I can take the memory and the disks and all that, and I can either get rid of individual pieces, and I would still identify it as that computer, that particular server. I could take that server and I could move all of the memory and every instruction and everything to a completely different server, someplace else in the world. And as an individual that's logging in that server, it's the same thing to you, even though all the parts are different. So is that a soul?
So I would say
That's
first
back
of
to
all, I
what
would
you said
disagree
about
with
the
this.
snow thrower,
I
Mike.
think that when it comes to
Yep. Yep.
You know, yep. That's a good point.
So what is
They had some
Eric-
good. They had some good. A lot of time the Q&A is terrible, but
Yeah.
this Q&A was pretty good. They had some good questions. In the Q&A.
Oh shit, that's Eric Murphy down there by, isn't it, with the camera? Isn't that the guy?
Small for me to see.
Maybe he's just identical to Eric Murphy.
Yeah, it's probably not the real Eric Murphy. Just,
Well, everybody's there, you know. Dillahunty, Arn, you know,
yeah,
everybody's in town. So.
I'm pretty sure that guy behind the camera is Eric Murphy. I don't know. Interesting.
So I would say, first of all, I would disagree that it is the same. I think that when it comes to aggregates, which is a computer, a collection of separable parts held together in a certain structure, I think the moment you begin to replace parts, it's no longer the same object. So I would disagree that
Why not?
the computer would be the
Yeah,
same.
why not?
And that's why I talked about the car, tricycle. Even my friend Braxton Hunter talks about if I told you I had Christopher Columbus's axe, and you say, "Oh wow, let me touch it," and you're like, "Well, it is his axe, but I replaced the handle, I replaced this, I replaced that, and I replaced everything. Then is it still Christopher Columbus' axe?" Well, no, because everything's been replaced. So I would say
Yeah,
the
but
moment
that's
you
not
begin
the
to
same.
replace
That's not the
aggregate, you
same.
no longer have this.
Yeah.
That's not the same as replace. Like they said, if you're replacing all your information, that's not the same as replacing the axe head and the axe handle, because those are different materials that don't have any data storage.
Yeah,
He was talking about data storage the same way that he was using. You've got all this stuff in your mind, and if you can put it in a different place, or if you can take a computer and put it in a different place, isn't it still the same if it has all the same stuff?
So if he's saying we have to have a soul for some reason to be
right. Yeah, if you move everything, it no longer has a soul. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
But why should we have a soul? I mean, he's saying we should have a soul because that's what his Bible says.
Yeah. What
okay, I'm not the same person that I was 20 minutes ago.
So
I don't need a soul.
If you replace,
I still identify as myself. But
if you replace everything about yourself, one memory at a time, one event at a time, one idea at a time, would your soul? Why do you need? What would be left for the soul? Because obviously Hernandez would think that you had the same soul, right? But what the fuck would be left in the soul? What would the content of the soul be if you removed all the physicality?
Yeah, like Leo said,
I can think of that would really change your identity, who you are, and your sense of identity would be if I go in there and start chopping out brain matter.
Well, yeah, if you got a new nose, and then you got new lips, and then you got a new arms, and then you started taking your memories one at a time, replacing them with somebody else's. What would be left as the content of the soul, other than God's VIN number? And we know there's no God, and we know that God doesn't use VIN numbers. So there you go. The soul doesn't exist. That's my knockdown argument against the soul. No VIN number.
You downloaded everything, then that's you over there.
Yeah.
But you don't have a soul because everything that you've downloaded doesn't include the soul.
Yeah.
But if theoretically, like Leo said, if theoretically everything can be replaced, then theoretically you can be replicated down to your consciousness, like we're saying with the transporter in Star Trek. It replicates your consciousness. It's not just replicating just pure data, like, the date I was born and, like a data file on a government paper or something like that. This is everything. Memories, emotions, all that stuff is actually what makes up your consciousness. Would be conscious. And why couldn't you do that if you put all that into a computer? The computer then should be conscious, theoretically.
Is James related to Midnight by any chance? Because he just disappears every now and then.
I noticed that. Yeah, he disappeared quite a few minutes.
No fanfare. He just leaves, and he just,
Not even a little private chat message going, hey, I got to go, guys. Thanks.
Oh, nothing. He just leaves us hanging here. It's like.
Or this conversation is starting to suck. I'm
I think that's,
even that.
Yeah. We only got eight watching now on one channel, and what do we got on the second channel?
Yeah, but my phone is lit up with notifications. So there's everybody and their brother and sister is on tonight.
Yep. Anyway, okay.
And the DEBATECON is going on.
Yeah, maybe we should shoot her in the head and return to this maybe at another day. But we should definitely return to this one because there's a lot in here that relates to philosophy of the mind, about how philosophy needs to get it all wrong. I don't know.
I need to finish off that Kirkland brand bottle of ibuprofen.
Can you see Cerberus Hex?
I can see Cerberus Hex.
Yep.
You're not blocked?
In the restream. I see him not in Captive Desk. Let's go over to Answers in Atheism. I see Cerberus in Answers in Atheism.
Yeah, you're not.
I see him.
Main account. Well, what the fuck's your main account? What account did I block? I didn't block your account. Why would I block you? What did you do?
You may have offended one of our mods. Okay.
Like,
everybody's pretty much a mod.
I will say, like I said, I watched it and I rewatched parts of it, and I rewatched a couple parts of it on 2x speed.
Well, who
And
blocked you?
I'm still
So-
stuck on what is a soul.
Yeah.
Other than it's just one of those things of like God is. Well, it's not physical, it's not material, it's not in our dimension, it's not in this, it's not in our that, and everything you can possibly say, so that there's no way to test for it.
And what's the difference between a soul and a ghost?
Well,
Or what if we
it's
have something?
what's the
that-
difference? If you have a
Yeah.
soul or not, or if you have a God or not, if magic exists or not, if none of it manifests in reality, what difference does it make?
Right.
So I'll grant, okay, there's a God. I don't see it doing anything. I'll grant there's a soul. I don't see it doing anything. So it doesn't seem to change anything one way or another.
Yeah. Cerberus, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Tiny Tyrant? What the fuck is that? Mr. Tiny Tyrant?
No, you didn't block me. I guess he's messing around.
He's fucking with me. Okay, he's fucking with me. I don't even know.
One over on you. Gee.
I don't even know how to go to the page to unblock people anymore because it's been so long since I've been there. And YouTube used to have a tab down here that, but they don't seem to have it anymore. I don't know. Fuck it all. I want to shoot her in the head pretty quick here. I want to go watch some TV. So I finished House of Usher last night, and holy fuck,
Yeah.
what an awesome series, man! That was pretty. And the last episode sort of really got the whole. I mean, asked a lot of questions about capitalism and the rich people and whether we invented them, and a lot of really cool things. So it was pretty neat. I liked it. Anyway, what do you think, guys? Should we get the fuck out of here?
Yeah, I think maybe we should get the fuck out of here.
Anti-Semitism and atheism. Yeah, that sounds good. What the
I'm
hell?
gonna click on that link.
Yeah.
My back is doing a little bit better. I've been a heating pad and I took some ibuprofen.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I felt
It is
better.
loosened up
I
a
felt
little
better
bit.
earlier,
Man.
but it's. I felt
I
better
woke-
earlier, but it's starting to wear off.
I woke up real stiff. All that monkey. I was doing all kind of monkey shines at the car lot, looking all underneath this thing and everything.
Yeah.
Popping
I
the hood, popping the tailgate, popping the doors, popping the seats around, and in one of those things, I think I just reached.
I felt a
paid
lot
for it
better.
this morning.
I felt a lot better when I was 20.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I probably could have recovered from tripping over the walkway
yep.
when I was 20 than now. I'm afraid when I get up in the morning, I'm just really going to feel everything.
Yeah, old people that don't exercise don't bounce. They don't bounce very well.
There's a meme that goes something like, when I was 20 and I got a pain, I didn't think, is this the one that's going to be it?
Okay, Cerberus said he's not fucking. Okay.
This one
Okay,
does
so-
me in?
So is there a Cerberus Hex account that's blocked that's titled Cerberus Hex? Because I can go check that and make sure that you're not blocked at all. So
Michael check the transcript. So just
I
put
don't
the
know.
name on there and he'll check it.
Well, where the fuck is that whole unblock thing on YouTube? I don't know. Maybe we should do
I have
this
no
on-
idea. I haven't had to use it, fortunately. So
I know, forever. Yeah. Oh, settings. Okay, way the fuck down on the bottom.
when you play with Ouija boards, you don't get a whole lot of Christian trolls, I guess.
Okay, permission.
I guess not.
Okay, it's
I think you're
community.
going to hell already, that you're a lost cause because you're playing with the Ouija board.
Oh, did I tell you, I gave Robin a hit when I did a video with Robin over at the Kentucky Atheist channel, because Robin used to be a witch, and we had done the tarot cards, and I wanted to learn about tarot cards. And Robin said, "I'll teach you about tarot cards." So I said, "I'm in." So I learned a bunch about tarot cards, and
Very
one of the
nice.
things was my future was something new, like a new house. And so I saw her in a chat today, and I said, "Hey, Robin," I said, "I'll give you a hit on that. I didn't get a new house, but I got a new truck."
There you go.
We'll give that one a hit on the tarot cards.
Yeah, because you could live in it someday anyway.
Oh, I've got the extended cab, so it's
Yeah.
It's
Or you
ruminating.
could just decide I'm gonna start living in my truck and just not go in the house anymore.
It is
Except
parked in
maybe-
the back right now. I've got the view of the pond and everything.
Yeah, go. Yeah, take your pillow and your blankie.
I pulled it
Yeah.
right in the back so we can start making a list and checking it twice.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I got Wesley Curry the second blocked, and the fucking thing is, I have 100 of Danny's sock accounts blocked, and I can't fucking find anything.
And 100 Otangelo soccer accounts.
And I have nothing named Cerberus Hex. Nothing named Cerberus Hex is blocked anywhere. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I think you made this up. I don't
And who
know.
was he referring to as Mr. Tiny Tyrant?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't
Did you
have
get-
a Mr.
Did
Tiny.
you get a copy of
Oh, I
Otangelo's
do.
new book?
Okay, you're right. What the fuck? Cerberus Hex was blocked. I just
Oh,
unblocked.
Titan blocked you. Okay.
How the hell did Titan block you?
He's a mod, isn't he?
You gave him
Yeah.
a wrench.
Yeah, but mods can't block anybody, can they?
Oh, did you give him a super wrench?
No, I don't know. Maybe
Because
people.
there's two kind of wrenches. You didn't click the wrong box, did you? You've got
That could have happened.
you've got minor mod and then you got superpower mod.
Anyway, I fixed it, Cerberus. I see what you mean now. It's just that I can't find you in all of It's like it's not Danny boy. I'm really not Danny. This is not Danny. I mean, all these accounts I've got on there, and I'm just like, fuck.
And
Danny.
most of those are from like one
There it
particular
is.
live stream.
Your test is up on the screen there, sir.
Yep, we can see you now. So,
No, did Otangelo send you an autographed copy of his new book, Mike?
huh? No, he didn't.
He doesn't want a review? I mean, gosh.
His last book was a little lengthy. It was just amazing. Anyway, let's get the hell out of here, guys. Okay.
All right, you have a good one.
Okay.
Rest up, Scott.
See you guys. Thank you
I'll
all.
do my best.
Gonna shoot her in the head.
Goodbye, side chat. Thank you for being here.
Crew of Work.